Well, certainly, Aldrin, there have been so many legs to this particular story that we've been covering. And indeed, yesterday we did speak to Thabo Bester's lawyer on an array of matters surrounding this particular case. And in particular, whether they were going to pursue the very same route that we see now Dr. Nandi Pamakutumana following. You would know, of course, that application that she brought before the High Court here in Bloemfontein is due to be heard on Thursday. She's basically challenging the process that was used to arrest her in Tanzania and deport her back to South Africa. She basically alleges she was abducted. So the next question would be, even though Thabo Bester is a convicted prisoner, he escaped from prison. There is absolutely no dispute about that at this particular point, even though the matter is yet to sit in the trial court. But certainly, from what we hear from his lawyers, is that they're going to pursue possibly that route. It is not off the table at this particular time. And also, there have also been allegations that have been made widespread, we've seen in some of the South African media, while many people close to these two individuals have spoken out about what they know about them. There have also been some allegations of reports of alleged abuse. So I guess the next best question would be then to ask, was there any duress on the part of Dr. Nandi Pamakutumana in her arriving in Tanzania? What was the relationship like between the two of these individuals who've been described as the Bonnie and Clyde of South Africa? So certainly, lawyers basically saying they don't know anything about, these allegations that have been made in the media at this point. They've not reached that point, they say, at this particular time. What they're trying to deal with first is whether their client, even though he's convicted, Aldrin, on the other aspect, remember, he is serving time in jail for raping and murdering. So this aspect that we're dealing with now is his rearrest in Tanzania and whether proper process was followed. Because remember, Thabo Bester is now in court for that particular aspect relating to his escape from the Mangaung prison. And essentially, these lawyers saying that they know nothing about it. They're hearing through the media about these allegations that have been made. And on the aspect as well of, whether he is remorseful at all over what has transpired. Again, they say they're not at that particular point right now, and they'll have to deal with the merits of this particular case when it goes to trial on, the circumstances, I guess, that led to the escape of Thabo Bester and him since fleeing then to Tanzania with Dr. Nandi Pamakutumana and them being arrested in that country and being deported back to South Africa. Those are issues they say they're not willing to deal with at this particular stage, and they'll wait for the trial court to first find him guilty on the charge relating to the escape from prison.
And before we move over to the court judgment that will be handed down today on the bail application of those 5 accused, with the Thabo Bester matter, is it clear as yet whether he would apply to be part of the case that has been brought by Dr. Nandi Pamakutumana, seemingly as it seems that though at this point that they could raise similar issues that are raised by Dr. Makutumana?
Well, Aldrin, not at this particular stage. In that interview, you would have heard one of the lawyers representing him indicate that it is something that is not off the cards. No such application has been brought at this stage. However, they are still pondering on the matter. It is not off the table at this particular stage. So it could possibly, Aldrin, be one of the aspects that Thabo Bester could also be pursuing, because if indeed it is found that, a due process was not followed, let's say on the part of Dr. Nandi Pamakutumana being arrested in Tanzania, that would then mean, according to those court papers of hers and what her lawyers are arguing, is that the proceedings that are currently taking place involving her at the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court here where I am would then thus be illegal. That is what she is saying in those papers. And indeed, yes, Aldrin, we're expecting at 12 o'clock at midday today for the presiding magistrate in the matter here to hand down judgment or make his decision known on the bail application of the 5 other accused of aiding and abetting the escape of Thabo Bester. You know, of course, that accused number 1 was also applicant number 1 in this matter. Sonohe Matswara is one of them, Teboho Dipulo, as well as Nastasia Janssen, Diheo Mahota, as well as Butima Sugela. Those are the 5 who have been applying for bail in this particular matter. You'd know that the state has been opposing their bail application, and they basically put the investigating officer on the stand who detailed what the alleged involvement was of these 5 applicants in aiding and abetting Thabo Bester's escape. We heard about transactions that are alleged to have been made, money that was allegedly paid from a certain TK Nkwana, who we understand now is one of the aliases used by Thabo Bester, plus minus 150,000 rand that was paid to the first applicant in this matter, Sinohe Matsware, and 40,000 rand allegedly paid to Teboho Dipulo, and 14,000 rand allegedly paid to Diheo Mahota. Nastasia Janssen did not receive any money in this aspect, but what we're expecting the magistrate to take into account is quite a number of issues, and a lot has been centered on the personal circumstances of these 5 individuals. So who will be granted bail? We don't know at this stage. We'll know at 12 o'clock. Who will not be granted bail? We'll certainly learn that as well at 12 o'clock, Aldrin. So allegations of monies, but we also saw in cross-examination, Aldrin, lawyers for the 5 accused trying to poke holes in the testimony of the investigating officer, suggesting, for example, that he did not do his job thoroughly. One of the applicants, the investigating officer said did not have a passport, but then his lawyers stood up and said, my client does in fact have a passport, which means that you as the investigating team did not do your job thoroughly. And here my client is now handing in his passport, because remember, one of the key aspects that needed to be shown inside this court was that the applicants for bail are not a flight risk. They will not interfere with the investigations that are still ongoing, and they will not interfere or intimidate the witnesses that are due to take the stand in the trial court itself. So some of those aspects were certainly ventilated, inside this court. Whether it was enough on the part of the state, the defense is basically saying that the state has a very weak case against their clients. In an instance, for example, pertaining to Nastasia Janssen, who is accused number 8 in this matter, her lawyers essentially arguing that indeed she was based in the CCTV room, but when she opened the doors on the day that Thabo Bester had escaped, she thought it was a G4S employee. Remember, it is now fact that Thabo Bester had escaped the Mangaung prison. At the time, he was wearing a G4S uniform. That is the uniform used by the security personnel at the Mangaung prison. And, a number of other aspects. Lawyers for Sinohe Matsware also saying that they will come and ventilate at a later stage why exactly those monies were paid to their clients, suggesting it might have been for something else. It gives us an indication, slightly, Aldrin, of how they plan to structure their defense at a later stage. Also, Teboho Dipulo, who you'd recall, the investigating officer had also said he had called police. He had confessed about his alleged involvement in the escape of Thabo Bester, and also spoke about the alleged involvement of his other colleagues. But his defense, his lawyers basically said that's not how it had happened. In fact, it was police that had called their client and arrested him at the place where they agreed to meet, and that the version that the investigating officer is giving is devoid of the truth. So we'll certainly see how all those arguments culminate into the decision made by the Magistrates Court here in Bloemfontein, and it starts at midday.
Yeah. A final one, Chriselda, Teboho Bereng, the body of the man that was found in cell 35, where Thabo Bester was and escaped. Do we know whether his family will be attending these proceedings this morning or this afternoon?
Well, Aldrin, very likely. It's one of the aspects, that family has felt needed to be ventilated. They're also equally disappointed because, remember, what has since transpired to this point where we are now is that the National Prosecuting Authority had preferred murder charges against the accused and subsequently withdrew them after we understand now that Katlego Bereng, had collapsed at a taxi rank. This is the version, of course, that is given by the investigating officer that took the stand. and, had subsequently passed on. And, they've been very interested in this matter because, recall, it was the body of their loved one that was used as a decoy in the escape of Thabo Bester. This after it was allegedly claimed the body this is by Dr. Nandi Pamakudumana. We also heard the investigating officer detail how all of this had transpired, linking it to accused number one in saying that it was Dr. Nandi Pamakudumana's father, Zolile Sekeleni, who has since been placed out on bail of 10,000 Rand, who hired a car from OR Tambo International Airport, brought it to Bloemfontein, and the very same car that had been hired was used to transport this corpse, allegedly by Sinohe Matsware, onto the premises of the prison, and he was assisted, allegedly there, by the other applicant, Butima Sugela, who is also going to hear what his fate on bail will be this morning. And then the other applicant, Teboho Dipulo, is alleged then the following day, after the body had been placed on the premises of the prison, allegedly put it on a bin, in a bin trolley, and dragged it to the direction where Thabo Bester's cell was situated, and basically stored that corpse in a dark room. And then on the part of the other two applicants, Tiho Machotsa as well as Nastasia Janssen, they are alleged to have opened the doors that led then to Thabo Bester leaving the premises of the Mangaung Correctional Facility. But their argument in terms of what we heard from their lawyers is that they simply before this court for doing their jobs. When they opened those doors, the person who had gone through those doors was in a G4S uniform. They thought perhaps it might have been one of the warders there, but it turned out to be Thabo Bester. So we're here at 12 o'clock, Aldrin. We should start at about 12, shortly after 12 o'clock, when the presiding magistrate is expected to hand down that decision on the bail application of these 5 accused.